Hey, what's going on everybody? Well, we're back for another video today, and if you are new to the channel, welcome back. We are truly grateful that you decided to stop by and check us out. What we're going to be focused on today is this tank right here. This is a tank that I've had going for quite some time now. It's a planted tank, and it started out as this really cool fallen tree tank. It was one of the very first kind of like intricate aquascapes that I had ever done in the fish room. Up until this point, I really had just done standard kind of tanks. You know, we were doing guppy breeding, things like that. We let this thing run for almost a year in this fallen treescape. Then we rescaped it like this about 9 months ago, and we transferred that big giant Betta into this tank. Well, unfortunately, that giant Betta passed away about 2 months ago, and I haven't addressed that yet, and I'm addressing that right now. I had this fish for a couple of years, and honestly, I don't know what it is about giant Bettas, but I've really not had a whole lot of luck with them. I don't know if it's because of the breeding practices or what the deal is, but you know, a standard Betta, I can get 5 years of life out of one easily, and these giant Bettas, they just don't seem to last that long for some reason. 2 years, 2 to 3 years is like tops that I've ever had one actually survive. But unfortunately, he passed away. So the tank is open and I want to put another Betta in there. So we're going to find us a Betta. But before we do that, what I want to do is go ahead and focus on this tank for just a minute because we need to do a little maintenance. This thing has plant growth in it like crazy. It hasn't been trimmed or anything like that. And I need to vacuum it out a little bit. So we're gonna do that for just a minute, and then we're gonna go find us a really epic Betta to go into this tank today. Now I've drained this tank down just a little bit to be able to get in here and not cause an overflow and things of that nature. But the thing we're gonna start with is some of this jungle valve. This needs to be trimmed back significantly because it's completely overtaken this tank. Now, with jungle val, unfortunately, if you trim this off, it's just, you throw it away. It's not gonna regrow. So let's start with trimming that off a little bit. And to trim this, what I'm gonna do is come back here and find where this jungle val actually starts and start pulling this stuff out. But if you notice, this stuff is growing fantastic. Even in this tank where we're at here, this is just a 20-gallon long, and you can see how long this stuff has gotten. Jungle val is a great filler plant for sure. As far as having a lot of wavy kind of plants in your tank, things of that nature, this stuff works great. That is about the end of our jungle val there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take some scissors and just clip this stuff off, just like that. And if you notice, this is how much came off of this. This is how much it's grown. And if you wanna pick up some jungle val, you can do that at the csbrand.com. I got plenty of jungle val available. If you wanna go grab some of that, check out the csbrand.com. In fact, all these plants that we're gonna be clipping today are available at the csbrand.com. A little bit of green hair algae back here that's in this rotala. Get that out. What we're also going to do is we're going to come down in here, because if you notice this bulb right here, which is a dwarf aquarium lily, it's actually starting to die out on the bottom. And the reason is because I've allowed it to actually grow to the surface. And you're supposed to clip these off as they grow to the surface. So we're going to go ahead and clip all of these right here off and remove these surface leaves, because what happens is once they've hit the surface, they stop absorbing nutrients from the soil, and that can result in the plant dying. I'm going to move all this frog bit over to this side. Frog bit is a great aquarium plant. It's a floating plant. Now, it is illegal to possess in the state of California due to its invasive nature. However, everywhere else in the United States, at least the United States proper, I believe it's also illegal in Puerto Rico, but you are allowed to own it, possess it, grow it, and this stuff does fantastic. It is a great floating plant, super easy to care for, and in fact, one of the easiest plants to care for. Little Madagascar lace bulb that's growing out back here. And really all I'm trying to do is just get these little plant remnants and things like that out, and then we're just gonna come in and trim this stuff. We just wanna trim it back just a little bit. So now that I think that we've got all the plants trimmed back, we're gonna do a little cleaning on this thing, get this thing filled up with water. All right, now what I'm gonna be doing here, so I'm gonna use one of these API algae pads. And this thing is fantastic for scrubbing your aquarium. It gets all this junk off up here. So like if you've got this white residue from your water, it will totally take that off. All right, so now that we got that glass cleaned off, let me go ahead and vacuum some of this debris out. Now looking at what we got out of here, a couple of pieces of rotala. This stuff will actually grow. This little piece right here will grow into a full plant. It'll start shooting roots off of it and it will grow into a full plant. So this rotala, we definitely want to keep. So we're gonna take all these little pieces of this rotala, make sure that there's not any hair algae or snails on it. Now granted, I can't guarantee you that there's not gonna be snail larvae on it, but I'm gonna take all this rotala like this, and we're gonna place this into one of our planted tanks to save. One of the other things that we're gonna be adding to this aquarium today is actually gonna be some amano shrimp, which will take care of all this hair algae for us. So this is trash. Here's a little piece of broadleaf ludwigia, which is broadleaf ludwigia will also grow. As you can see, it has actually started to root here at the end where it broke off. So we're gonna throw that into a plant remnant tank. Not sure what this is, but as you can tell, it's rooted. It's come off of one of the plants that are in there. We'll see what that is in just a minute. These dwarf aquarium lily leaves, the lily pads off of it, these can just go straight in the trash. They're not gonna regrow. So we'll get rid of all those. We have a couple of dead Java fern leaves that were in there. We'll get rid of those. Here's some more of that plant again. Not sure what that is, but we're gonna grow it and see. More rotala, some more Java fern remnants. And that looks like it, but all of this green from our jungle val can just be thrown in the trash. So all of this right here can actually go into a planted tank. These are our trimmings. These can go into a planted tank and they will actually begin to grow. So we're gonna actually drop these into one of our planted tanks over here. Now that we're finished with that, let's go back over here and finish up on this tank. This thing is filling up with water. We need to go ahead and get this piece of driftwood back in here. So the tank has been fully maintained. It's just at this point we need to let the water clear up. Since we've done a water change on it, it is a little bit different in temperature than it was. So we're gonna let this thing heat back up, clear this water up, and then we will start looking for a new Betta. Well, it's been a couple of days since we filled this tank back up with water. I just wanted it to settle and make sure everything was good before we introduced any new fish into this tank. Currently, it's occupied by just a few neon tetras that have always been in this tank. And we're gonna obviously have to watch these guys and make sure that everybody coexists just fine with the addition of this new Betta fish. Now granted, neon tetras are pretty... Did you hear that? Yeah, that's the button quail. Yeah, oh, okay, thanks Bertha. Jeez Louise, the button quail. They're telling me, shut it down, Chris. It's too late for a YouTube video. We're ready to go to sleep. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Neon tetras are actually pretty peaceful fish, especially in a community tank. They kind of stick to themselves. I've kept neon tetras with bettas for as long as I can remember. I've never had any problems, but they've always been introduced together. In this situation, we have these neon tetras that were with another betta fish that has passed away. We're going to be introducing a new betta fish to it, so we want to keep a very close eye on it and make sure that they all coexist without any problem. If there are any problems, we'll leave the betta fish in this tank and we will take these neon tetras and we'll relocate them into other schools of neons that we have within the fish room and throughout the house. With that, let's go ahead and take a look at this tank that we haven't seen in a couple of days. So looking at this tank, I mean, this tank is looking fantastic. We got all of the plant growth cut back. Everything looks really good in here. So we have a Java fern back here. Right back in the back here, we have some rotala rotundifolia. We have a little bit of, looks like maybe hornwort or is that hornwort? That is not hornwort. I don't know what that is. That could be, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look and see what that one is. So what this is actually ambulia, I believe. Moving back across this way, we have another Java fern, some more of that rotala rotundifolia, and then we have some jungle val that takes over this whole thing. Up here in the top, we have some floating plants, which these are some of our frog bit, which look fantastic. Great floating plant, super easy to care for. And then here in the front, we have a couple of interesting plants. We have a dwarf aquarium lily that's right here in the background. And then we have this really cool new plant. I've never kept these before, and these are called banana plants. And for obvious reasons, because the root systems look like bananas. I've not done a whole lot of research on these guys yet. They look to be just floating plants that you do not, in fact, bury. I was able to pick these up recently, so I went ahead and picked them up, threw them into a couple of tanks. They're doing really well. So another cool plant that we have here in the fish room. So as we talked about before, all of these plants are available at the csbrand.com. Oh, and then right back here in the background, we have a little Madagascar lace bulb that's actually just been floating around in here, and it had no leaves on it when we put it in here, and if you notice, it is completely regenerated, and it looks like there may be 2 total plants on this. So I could actually separate these once the roots get a little longer from this bulb, plant those in tanks, and then put the bulb back into a tank, and it will actually resprout just like that. So make sure you visit the csbrand.com. We're actually having sales going on, as well as we've reduced the price on shipping, as well as we're putting together some plant packs. So make sure you go check out the csbrand.com and pick you up some plants, because there's a lot more than what's just shown in this tank. So with that, this tank is ready. I've tested the water, everything is good. The only thing I want to do before we add a fish is go ahead and add some nutrients back into this water, and we're going to be using some API products for that. So one of the things that I added when I did this water change were API root tabs, and what I did is just broke them up into pieces and stuffed them back into the substrate behind where all these plants are planted, because it gives nutrition to the roots in our planted substrate. And what API Leaf Zone is, it's a liquid fertilizer that goes right into your water column. It contains things like iron and potassium, and it's really good for colorful leaves and things like that. So we're gonna go ahead and add some of this into it. Now this stuff is crazy when you add it because it's like a brown color. I don't know if you saw that on camera, but you can see it down here dissipating throughout the water. I think that's due to all of the soluble potash that's in it, and maybe the iron. Now that we've added our leaf zone, we're also going to go ahead and add some CO2 booster. I do not run CO2 systems on any of my tanks, so the only type of CO2 I ever use is just simply some liquid CO2, and this API liquid CO2 is fantastic. Very good product. Now as you can see, the growth on this tank has been really well, and I've been using these products for quite some time. In fact, since I set this tank up, which was about 9 months ago. But this tank looks really good. So let's talk about the betta fish that's going to be going in here. Back in September 2019, I attended my very first Aquashella in Chicago, and I met a guy there by the name of Ben, and at the time his company was called Ben's Bettas, and Ben sold all kinds of betta fish. And while I was at that show, a subscriber ended up buying me a betta fish, and I wasn't able to bring it home on the plane, so I asked Ben to take it back, and of course I never was able to get it back because there were no other Aquashellas after that point due to COVID. Well, that changed when I ran into Ben recently at Aquashella in Dallas. His new company, MB Bettas. Find him on Instagram. You can find a link in the description. But Ben has an entire selection of betta fish, and they are great quality, super cool fish. So Ben went ahead and gave me one of his betta fish in return for that fish that I had given him way back when, and I was able to bring that home. And that's the fish that's gonna be going in here. Now this is probably one of the prettiest bettas I've ever owned. It's also probably the fanciest and the most expensive. So we definitely wanted to make sure this tank was fully cycled and ready to go, because I do not want to kill this fish. But this is a super cool betta fish. And in fact, when I was looking for one through all of the bettas that Ben had brought, this one caught my eye. And it caught my eye for a specific reason. So I want you to take a look at this fish and make sure you comment below and let me know what is the first thing that caught your eye about this fish. Also make sure you give it a really good name, because I'm not really sure what we're gonna name it yet, because it's such a unique color pattern and things of that nature that I'm not really sure what will fit. So I'm looking for you guys to help me out with that. Make sure you drop a comment. But let's go ahead and take a look at this guy. All right, well, looking back at this tank real quick, we noticed that the aquarium lily has stood up, everything is looking fantastic, and I want to go ahead and introduce you to this new fish. Like I said, make sure you comment below and let me know what's the first thing that you notice about this fish, and what should we name this guy? And here we go. This is our new little betta, and he is absolutely gorgeous. We're gonna get this guy acclimated, and I'm just gonna basically cup acclimate him. I'm gonna go ahead and water my plant with some of his water, and then we're just gonna take him and we're gonna temperature acclimate him, but we're also gonna drip acclimate him. So I'm gonna fill this cup up with a little bit of this tank water, and then I'm just gonna let it sit here, and he'll rest here for just a little while, and then we'll slowly start adding some water to this cup. There he goes, exploring around. Let's go ahead and get him some food in here because he is hungry. He was trying to eat there for a minute. So once again, my question is, what's the first thing about this fish that you noticed? He seems to be okay with the neon tetras. Like they're all kind of hanging out. I mean, even like, as you can see there, well, he's kind of chasing him now, but not too bad. Look at how pretty he is. Look at that. Such a pretty fish. So, like I said, let me know what you guys think about this new fish. Let me know what you think about this tank. And with that, I really hope you went on to enjoy this update video today and you enjoy seeing this beautiful new betta fish that we put into this fully planted scaped tank. Once again, all those plants that you saw today are available at the csbrand.com. Make sure you go check them out, pick up some merchandise, some plants, whatever you like. Hopefully you've subscribed, turn on that notification bell, followed us on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all are in the description of every video. And with all that, guys, thank you so much for the support and we'll see you next time.